Good evening and welcome to the Let's Talk Destiny talk show. I'm honored tonight to have with me Mrs. Lorna Lewis. She is a national best-selling author of multiple novels. She has authored several short stories and a daily devotional, which I keep saying every month I'm going to buy, and I haven't bought yet, but I'm going to buy it. She is a speaker, a screenwriter, producer, and CEO of L.C.I. Publishing LLC. She is the mastermind, I like that, behind the Changing Lives the Right Way coaching program for writers and inspiring writers. And she is my sister writer. We connected some years ago through writing and co-authors in a book about mothers. I think it was the Motherhood Diaries.
It was.
Yeah, and we've been in touch since then, and she's been such an inspiration and a blessing to me, and I know she will be the same for you. And so tonight, I want to welcome to my humble platform, Ms. Lorna Lewis. Welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is an honor to be here. Definitely.
So first of all, tell us just a little bit about you. What do you like to do? What makes you smile? What makes you happy?
Oh boy, let's see. I'm very, very easy. I just like to chill out. I like to lay around and watch television when I can. That's like a luxury for me. Like going new places, eating in new places, just experiencing new things. That's what I like to do. Making memories. I'm all about
Awesome.
making memories these days.
I love that. And that is so important. I was talking to somebody not too long ago about, this time of year, especially, you start thinking about the people you've lost. And then you like, I don't have any pictures of this person. I don't have any memories. Like I have it in my head, but
Right.
I wish I had recorded. And so it's so important that we have those memories because they do become treasures when
Definitely.
that person is no longer with you.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, as you know, and most of you know who watch this program, I am I've been given the nickname Purpose Advocate because I'm really big on understanding purpose and encouraging people to find their purpose and fulfill that purpose. And so tonight I want to talk to you from pain to purpose, because you had an experience that I would say, I guess, would be any mother's worst nightmare. And it's easy for people to sit on the sideline and say, oh, you poor thing, I feel bad for you, I'm praying for you, I know what you're going through, and then time moves on and they forget all about it. But when you live with that every day, it carries a whole different meaning to you. And so I wanted to talk to you because I have spoken, as you know, dealing with mothers is like one of my passions. And I've spoken with a lot of mothers lately who have experienced the loss of a child. And everybody's experience is different. I've talked to some who want to pretend like it never happened. And then there's some whose whole life has become just that one event. So I want to ask you tonight, first of all, you lost a daughter, correctly?
Right. Yes.
And how old was she when she passed?
She was 18 months.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize she was that young. Oh, my goodness.
18 months.
That hit me differently. Was she sick or some?
No, she was not sick. And that's what I tell people is like, in my mind, I put down a healthy baby and went to bed, expecting things to be exactly how they were every other day for the past 18 months, waking them up for school and, going on about our day, having no idea that she would pass, of course. But I have adopted the attitude that when it just does not make sense, that's when I know it's God, because he isn't meant to, he's too big for our mind. He's too big for our brain. We can't wrap our minds around it. So as crazy as it may sound, that gave me comfort, because knowing I am a mere mortal, it was out of my control, understanding that there was nothing I could have done to have prevented it from happening other than, I did all that I was supposed to have done. He made that decision long before he sent her to me, that her stay would be short. So for me, like I said, that is what helped me, you know.
Because in times like that, your faith is really tested. It's easy to talk about it. It's easy to say, I trust God. I believe God for anything. I don't care what happens. I trust God. And then boom, when you hit in the throat with something like that, that's when you really know if you trust him or not.
Do you really?
Because you're like, okay, listen, I don't know what you're doing, but I trust you that you have my best interests at heart. Now,
Right.
what was your baby girl's name?
Courtney.
Courtney, because I don't want to keep saying baby. So you have other children other than Courtney.
Yes.
You actually have a son that's about 8 feet tall, isn't he?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Every time I see your pictures, I'm thinking, and he's getting taller and taller.
Yeah. Look, you should see me when he comes home. I'm like, hey.
How old is he?
He's 19.
And he just went to college.
Yes, this is his freshman year.
Yeah, I'm watching. People don't think I'll be paying attention to what's going on in their lives because I don't always interact, but trust me, I'm watching. But like every time I see the two of you together, I'm like, that boy is a foot taller. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yes.
That is too funny. So you have him and you have another daughter, right?
Yeah, Kirsten.
Okay. That's right. So how has it helped you to have these children and your husband and your support system? How has that helped you to move through this process to where you are now?
Oh my goodness. I honestly do not know where I would have been if I did not have them, because they were my motivation, especially the kids, knowing that, they're looking, they're watching. So, as with any loss, of course, there was grief.
Right.
And I didn't hide that from them because it's natural, grief is natural. So if I needed to cry, then that's what happened, especially during that first year, when we were still finding things, finding a sock or finding a nook or just something that just kind of, triggered it. And I allowed them to see me go through that, but I also allowed them to see me go through that.
Yes.
Not being stuck in that, understanding that it's life and we cannot control what happens in life. All we can do is pray about it and ask God to give us the strength that we know he would give us and keep moving.
I love that.
They've definitely pushed me.
I love that because sometimes we as parents, and especially mothers, because our makeup is to protect, to serve, and we don't want them to hurt any more than they absolutely have to hurt. And so we tend to say, well, I don't want them to see me broken. I don't want them to see me hurt because I'm mom. And I want them to always think I'm strong and they can come to me. But I think that being strong is also the ability to say I'm weak. And being strong is the ability to say mommy's hurting right now. And then help them to understand that it's okay for them to hurt. So you're writing and publishing, and I see you doing some screenwriting, working on television. I mean, I'm just impressed. Trust me, I got eyes on you. What would you say at this point in your life brings you the most joy as far as what you do creatively?
What brings me the most joy? Honestly, just being in that moment. Being, not the end of the story, not where it's going to go from here, not where it's going to go next, just being in the moment of the story. Because for me, writing is not just about being creative, it's also my form of therapy. And I did not realize that it has always been my form of therapy. I honestly didn't realize that until Courtney passed, because my mom passed when I was 13. And I started journaling when she passed, but at 13, you don't connect that
Right.
this is therapy for me. It was just, I was just writing.
What you did, that's right.
Right. Yeah. And it was actually my mom's passing that I wrote a story. We had to write a story about a day we will never forget. And so I wrote about that day, the day that she had passed away. And that's when my English teacher saw that I had the ability to write. And she was like, you have to do something with this talent. But again, it was
That's right. That's
again,
right.
it
Right.
was like I wrote this because you told us to write about our day. I don't want to write. I wasn't one of those people who always knew they wanted
They
to
were going to
write.
be a writer. Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't me. I was a later in life discoverer.
Yeah. So how many novels have you written now?
3. I've written 3 full novels and 2 novellas and a few short stories.
Now, tell me about this devotional that I keep saying I'm going to buy every month. And I am going to buy it this time. But because I love devotionals, I love journals, I love things that I can speak to my spirit with.
Yeah.
And where did that idea come from? And what is the basic concept behind your devotion?
So my dad had this Bible. It was the I forgot the contemporary, the contemporary English version, I think it was. And up until then, I've only read King James Version. So I was looking through his Bible and reading those versions. I was like, okay, it made sense because it was just basic language.
Yes.
So I was reading, I got to the point where I started taking scriptures, and from those scriptures, as you're reading, the Spirit is speaking to you.
Yes.
So as he was depositing things into me from reading those scriptures, I started emailing them out every morning to just a small group. So I would just email those out, let them see, just to encourage them, because it was, scriptures that I used to encourage me. And this was years before Courtney was even born.
Wow.
So after I started doing that, my dad actually is the one who encouraged me to put it, make it a book. And so I was like, well, Dad, I don't want to make this a book. I was already writing novels at that time. So I was like, I'm just sending these out to people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so he was like, well, you can reach more people if it was a book. He said, because my dad, he was older. So, he wasn't really into email and all.
Right,
he was like, everybody's not checking email in the morning. He was like, but they'll pick up their book and read it. So I was like, okay, well, that makes sense. So I started, I just compiled all, because I had been doing it for over a year. So I just compiled all of those and put them into book form. Now, what is amazing, and it still amazes me, even though when I would sit down and read those scriptures, I would pray, and I would ask God to, give me the word, tell me what you want them to know on this day, not just them, me. What do you want us to know on this day? So I published that book in 2009. So after Courtney passed, it was actually my coworker who had the Daily Devotional. And she said, did you read what you wrote on the day your daughter passed? And I was like, no. I mean, I published in 2009, she passed in 2012. So I didn't go back and read the book all over again.
Right.
So she said, and this was like a year after Courtney had passed. So she said, well, I didn't want to tell you last year because, it was so fresh. So she was like, but she gave me her book, her devotional. And I saw on that day, I had written, will you still trust me even if I take away someone you really love? Now, that book was published in 2009. Courtney was born in 2011. So on that day, on October 9th, 2009, that's what I had written. So I was like, that's how I know that the Holy Spirit wrote that book. I was truly just a tool.
Wow. That's
Yes.
powerful. That's powerful. And the thing is like, I was listening to what you were saying, because sometimes we hear something in the spirit, and we write it down and we don't think it's a big deal. Like at that moment, we're like, oh, that just came to my head or came into my spirit, and you just write it down. And I mention frequently on social media that I came across an old journal and I saw X, Y, and Z in there, and it just hit me today all over again. And some people have like inboxed me and make jokes about it and stuff like that. Like, can't believe you still hold journals that long, blah, blah, blah. But people who are spiritually in tune understand, like, the word of God, though it is new, it is old. So
Yes.
what he's saying to you today, he may say the same thing to somebody else next week,
Right.
but it still works.
Right.
Because the spirit, the word has life, it has spirit in it. And that's one reason why I said I definitely want to get one of those devotionals, because I do that all day. I got tablets, note. I wake up in the middle of the night, I write stuff down, I got stuff everywhere, like, because that's just how it works for me. And
Yes.
I have been saying, and I shared this with another guest about, I struggle to write fiction. I've been writing this novel since Jesus was a baby, and it's not finished yet. But I can write, like, if somebody gives me an idea and they say, can you write out something for me? I can like write paragraphs, but I can't. I think it's the dialogue thing that I have issues with. And my family members find that interesting, because they're like, the way you talk, I don't understand why you have trouble with dialogue, but I do. But anyway, I mentioned that to someone the other day. They were like, stop stressing about it, because everybody's voice is different. Maybe you're not meant to write fiction.
That's it.
Just do what you're supposed to do, what you're doing. And then if the fiction comes along, because I started this book like right after my parents died. That was 10 years ago. And I started a children's book.
Okay.
And in addition to this novel, and one of my grandsons, he was over here during the summer. They live in California, and he'd come to visit me. He's 15. And he saw me with the manuscript, jotting some stuff down. He said, oh my God, Nana, you said you were writing that book when I was a little baby. I was like, thank you for your encouragement, bro.
Right. They are so brutally honest.
But what you said just really encouraged me, because it's like, there isn't a set time necessarily, even though sometimes we are dragging our feet. But that encouraged me to just get at it and just get it done. Because it's not over as long as you're breathing and you still have life. It's not over. And so I watch you as you are pursuing your purpose, and I watch you with your family and how you all interact. And I hear you talk about your faith and your relationship with God. And I understand that all of that together has brought you to this place. And so when someone else was listening to our conversation, another mother who may be struggling to move past the event. I was talking to a mother who she lost a baby, I think it might be about 6 or 7 years ago now. And she's still very angry with God. The baby was stillborn. And so I was talking about the pain that I felt, when my parents died, because I haven't lost the child yet. So I can't relate to that. So I was trying to explain to her about the grief process and how, there's no time limit on whatever. And so she very rudely said to me that I don't want to hear about your parents, because losing your parents is not the same thing as losing something that came from your body. So I knew at that moment that she was not ready to have this conversation.
Right. Yeah.
So I just, moved on. But if someone is listening right now who is still at that place, where they're angry and hurt and, they can't get their stuff. What advice would you give to them?
And that's such a tough one because it's so hard, to, even though I've lost a child and she's lost a child, our experiences are so very different. Our backgrounds are so very different. Um, and I don't tell mothers who are grieving, I know what you're going through. I don't know what you feel, because I don't. I know what I feel, but I don't know what you feel. Um, because I could tell you, the only thing I can really tell anybody is what worked for me. And what worked for me was allowing myself to feel everything that came with that loss when it came. Not, and I'm not gonna say that there wasn't a time where, someone may call and ask, "Oh, how you doing?" And I said, "I'm fine." And I really wasn't, because I don't always want to talk. I don't always want to discuss it, but I think you do what works for you.
Yes.
But I also think that you have to get it out.
Yeah.
You have to. I think the thing that prolongs the grieving process is keeping it bottled in, and trying to overlook it, trying to work around it, trying to pretend like it never happened, trying to, just kind of go through the motion of not dealing. And it's going to come. Like, grief is one of those monsters that you cannot get rid of. I don't care if you try to ignore it, it's going to come. So it's best to just deal with it. And if you're angry, be angry. If you're, however you feel in that moment, be in that moment.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's like my personal mantra is, I feel what I feel. And in order for me to heal, I have to feel it. Like, I can't pretend I don't feel it and then say, "Oh, I'm healed," because I never went through the process of even feeling it. And I want to say this before we go, because I wrote a book years ago. Of course, I don't have it over here with me, but it's called "Help, I Don't Like Myself," and it came from my journaling experience when I ended up in the mental health unit and diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And so I took some of that journaling that I had done and I put it into this book, which is what I want to turn into a novel, but we're not going back to this. But one of the things that I stress is that we have got to, especially in the body of Christ, we have got to stop making people feel bad for feeling what they feel.
Oh, most definitely.
Take scriptures and we beat people over the head with it, and we manipulate people into thinking that if it happened before, it's over with, let it go, move on. But that is not God. Christ is touched with the feelings of our infirmities. If we didn't need a healing of any type, he would not say, "I'm a healer." So feel what you feel and then process that, because that's the only way you're going to get through it.
It is. That's the only way.
That's right.
Yeah. And like you said, there's no time limit. Especially when it comes to losing your child. It's every day is a memory. Every year, you have the anniversary, you have the birthday, you have, and especially with me, because I have what would have been the first day of kindergarten, what would have been the first day of life, so it's hard not to feel all of that when that time comes. So, but I don't think it's a good idea also to allow grief to take over your life, because you're still living. And my daughter, Courtney, was a happy baby. Courtney loved to laugh. She loved to smile. And I always tell people the best way I can honor my child is to be happy, is to live a happy life, because even in her 18 months, even though it was short, she lived those 18 months. She was so joyful and so happy. So I wouldn't want to be miserable, because that's not a representation of who she was. She wasn't a miserable child. So, I just think I like to, and even with my parents, because both of them are gone, they were the same way. So I like to carry on who they were, which were faith-filled people who believed in the body of Christ and who were happy, who were joyful.
I love that. I was going to ask you, what ways do you honor her? So I'm glad that you said that, because I think it's important that that's a part of your purpose, is
Yeah.
to carry on her memory, being happy, and your other children carry it on by seeing you happy. And the 8-footer, he carries it on this way. Don't tell him I was talking about him. But
He would laugh. He would love that.
every time I look at that picture, I'm like, oh my God, this boy is getting taller and taller every time I see it. And Miss Kirsten, she's something all by herself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They keep me busy.
That's wonderful. Well, again, I want to thank you for taking time out to come
Of course.
today. And I think it is so important that we do understand that pain happens, it's a part of life, but we don't have to stay stuck there because we have too much purpose. If you're still breathing, you still have purpose.
That's
I
so
just
true.
absolutely believe that. Okay, before I let you go, just tell us how we can contact you, reach out to you, get your books. You have a website, what have you?
Yes. All of my books are on my website, which is www.author.LALewis.com. I'm on Facebook, Author L.A. Lewis, Twitter, Author L.A. Lewis. The only name that's different is Instagram, which is Lorna _loves_writing.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Well, we're definitely gonna stay in touch with you. I do better. Because I have got to get this journal before this year is up. Because every month I put a sticky note at the front of the calendar and it says, get the journal from Lorna. And then when I look, it's like the end of the month. I had to move it. I'm like, this is crazy. But yes, I like to support my sister writers as much as I possibly can, so that whenever I get finished with this book, maybe somebody will buy it.
Yeah, we gonna push you to the finish line with this book. I'm glad you put it out there, so all your listeners, all your audience members will know to be bugging you.
I do seriously. I need somebody to say, listen, did you do any writing today? Because I'm like, seriously, it's sad. But anyway, I'm gonna do better. But again, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me.
We will talk again soon.
Definitely. Take care.
Peace and blessings.
Bye.
Bye.